It's the Wiltfong Whip Around with Steve Wiltfong. Today's Thursday, June 27, and it is commitment season. We got you covered in today's show. I'm your host, Josh Newberg. But before we get going, make sure you guys are subscribed to the On3 Recruits channel. Whether it's the 5-Star Flex, the Inside Scoop, the Wiltfong Whip Around, we got you covered. Make sure you guys hit subscribe for me. All right, let's bring on the great Steve Wiltfong. Now, we're going to get into some team stuff, but I want to hit on David Sanders first because you finally dropped your prediction and yes. You called your shot.
Yeah.
How about that? You called your shot on David Sanders. So get in here, explain it. We want to know.
Well, we had the best Call Your Shot article for On3 that Chad Simmons and I collabed on. So make sure you get over to on3.com and read that as we call our shot on the best prospects in the country. And that article begins with David Sanders Jr., the number one offensive tackle in the land per the On3 industry, number 2 player overall. And I'm riding with Ohio State coming out of his official visit to the Buckeyes this past weekend. I think that David Sanders and his family are now in decision mode as they work through all the things that they've learned, going through a process that goes back to 8th grade. So there's a lot to sift through. But I think with Ohio State, they have the track record of player development with guys like Paris Johnson at the position. I think the locker room culture and fit checks that box for David Sanders as well. The program playing on the highest level, playing in the biggest games of college football, check. On his official visit, this is a young man that's just as talented in the classroom as he is on the football field. He has aspirations of majoring in sports medicine and being an orthopedic surgeon. Spent a lot of time in the hospital there in Columbus, getting around the doctors and talking shop there, check. I think you have the city of Columbus comparable to the city of Charlotte, check. So, look, this isn't a done deal, but I get the sense that Ohio State is very well positioned alongside Tennessee in this recruitment. If we pick the Vols, that certainly wouldn't surprise me as well. But I just think, based on the information that I've gathered in covering David Sanders, I like where Ohio State stands as he goes into decision mode. I expect him to go dark, him and his family to go dark on these finalists, work through their checks and balances, dot their I's, cross their T's, and form a college decision, get a date out there, and make things official. And coming out of these official visits, I'm giving my gut, calling my shot. I like Ohio State.
This recruitment just feels like the stakes are so high because it's now the tier 1 teams for David Sanders are Ohio State and Tennessee, who were both runners-up for Jordan Seaton last year. And we know they did everything they could to land Seaton. They both end up runners up. So this year, battling for David Sanders. And once again, one of those two teams is going to end up being runner up for the number 1 offensive tackle in America.
Gosh, maybe they both could be. I mean, just because we're saying Ohio State and Tennessee doesn't mean that he doesn't end up at Clemson or Georgia. Right. We took official visits to Nebraska and South Carolina as well. But like where the Buckeyes and Vols are positioned, calling my shot, going with Ohio State as they try and sign On3's number 1 ranked recruiting class where they currently sit in the standings right now.
All right, let's talk some Miami recruiting. We didn't originally plan to talk Miami recruiting right here, but we're going to do it because Miami pulled a shocker last night. They landed offensive lineman Max Buchanan on 300 offensive linemen from Sanford Seminole, and Miami is hot right now on the recruiting trail, and there could be more. We're going to talk about a borderline 5-star now that's been trending to Iowa in Yosei Epinesa, but the number 37 ranked prospect overall from the state of Illinois, now you hear it could be Miami?
Well, Josh, I think a lot of people have made the assumption that he would be an Iowa lean because of the strong family ties to the university with his father playing there, his 2 older brothers, AJ and Eric, playing at Iowa. But him being the younger brother, he also has a sister that played volleyball at Purdue. Him being the youngest brother, I think he's leaning towards spreading his wings and doing his own thing right now. And the 2 programs that I'm looking closest to in this recruitment right now is Miami, where he took an official visit this past weekend, and Utah, the program that was first to offer him when he was in middle school. The strength coach at Utah was the best man in his father's wedding. Coach Joe Salavea at Miami, him and his father, Epi, they go back to the days at America Samoa, and they've known each other since they were kids. So strong family ties begin the foundational interest in those programs and knowing that he would be taken care of. So those are two programs that I'm certainly looking at closely. And then don't sleep on Penn State. They got the first official visit and they absolutely crushed it. And the way they play defense there, how prolific they are with tackles for loss and sacks, leading the nation in those categories last year. James Franklin and company getting a lot of players drafted at the point of attack also makes them exciting. But Miami and Utah are in a good spot for Yosei Epinesa coming out of this official visit this past weekend to Coral Gables with Joe Salavea. They call him the Hall of Famer Jason Taylor. They love what Mario Cristobal has done in getting Miami on the right track to return them to prominence. He's been to Miami 3 times. They have a great shot to land him. There's some serious inroads with Utah. He's been there a couple times as well. So the Utes and the Hurricanes, I think, are the ones that I'm watching closest for Yosei Epinesa. Iowa's in there, of course, and Penn State rounding out the 4 finalists.
Yeah, Miami, no stranger to going inside the state of Illinois for some of the best defensive linemen in that state. Let's move to the South a little bit. Defensive lineman Herbert Scroggins, he's going to make a decision tomorrow. 4-star from Savannah, Georgia. He's a defensive lineman. He goes 6'3", 215. Another one that could be trending in Miami's direction, but we're going to find out more tomorrow.
Yeah, at one point I really liked Auburn in this recruitment, but he takes his official visit to Miami and gushes about the opportunities that Miami can give him to develop him as a player. Again, having Jason Taylor on your staff with his track record of as a player is very exciting to these recruits when they come visit. But not only that, Jason Taylor is just one of the best humans, does a great job of building meaningful, genuine relationships with top Miami targets. And so it's more than just, hey, come play for Jason Taylor, the Hall of Famer. It's come play for Jason Taylor, the Hall of Famer, that also has put a lot of time and interest in me and cares about me and wants to mold me into the best person and player I can be. And I think that really stood out to him and his family on his latest official visit. And now Miami is trending going into his decision on Friday. Miami also trying to land today, Josh, not sure if it'll be announced before or after we go live. 4-star defensive back Chris Ewald. They're battling Georgia down the stretch. Former Michigan commit. I like the way that's setting up for Miami too right now. They're chasing another top 5 class. Cristobal is a closer. His staff goes as hard as anybody, and those are 3 big-time targets for Miami that they have a great shot to land.
Yeah, so Miami fans that are just tuning in to recruiting right now because it's the middle of the offseason and see Miami ranked, I think they're 18, 19 in the top 20 right now, but there should be no concern because it seems like Miami is about to heat up on a similar run to the way they did last year, where they hit it really hard at the end of summer into the fall. What do you think the ceiling is for this Miami class in 2025?
Well, I think when all said and done, you look at guys that are out there like 5-star DJ Pickett. Look, if Miami has the season that they're planning to have this fall, they're going to be in on some major targets. There's a lot of guys keeping Miami warm. And they're even swinging on guys like Elijah Griffin, number 1 defensive lineman in the country. And we've seen Miami throw their weight around on the trail. And if they're able to back that up with a great season, they've invested a lot in this season with a couple great recruiting classes. They've gone hard in the transfer portal. So this is a team expecting to have a big campaign. And if they do that, I think you'll see guys like DJ Pickett ultimately in the fold for Miami as well.
Yeah. All right, Miami fans, let us know how we feeling about Miami recruiting as we head into commitment season. Some big ones on the horizon. Let me and Steve know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's talk wide receivers going into decision mode because official visit season is over, at least for the month of June. And now they're going to sit down. A lot of these guys are going to sit down with their families and make some decisions. We saw 2 big names come off the board this week in wide receiver CJ Wiley out of Georgia and Joshua Moore out of the state of Florida. CJ Wiley, surprise, picked the Seminoles. Joshua Moore to the Gators. Let's start now, Steve, with some of these uncommitted names. And we'll start at the top of the wide receiver board, and that's number 1 wide receiver, DeCorian Moore. Him and his family tell you they are going into decision mode. What is the decision going to be when they come out of decision mode?
Well, there's a reason why I haven't put an on-3 RPM in yet for Texas. In the Call Your Shot article, Chad Simmons and I both called Texas, but we are both very well aware that these other three finalists are very much in the thick of it for Daren Moore. Now, Oregon has been a program that's been coupled with Texas for a lot of the process when he was committed to LSU as the two other programs to watch. And he had another great visit to Oregon over the weekend. There's not a coaching staff collectively doing a better job recruiting Daren Moore than Oregon, from Dan Lanning to Junior Adams to Coach Samples to Coach Will Stein, and all the way down to the water boy, according to Marjan Moore, his mom. They know everybody at Oregon. They always feel incredibly comfortable in Eugene, and certainly they like the trajectory of that program. You have Evan Stewart, who transferred from Texas to Oregon. So there's all kinds of things to like about Oregon in this recruitment. And obviously, his first love was LSU. His favorite player is Jamar Chase. LSU's track record of receiver development. His official visit to LSU earlier this month. He was the only prospect on campus. They got intimate one-on-one treatment during that visit. And I think it reminded Daren why he loved LSU and why he was committed there for so long in the first place. And then Ohio State, Brian Hartline, what he's done with receivers, 5-star receivers. The family has mentioned the way Ohio State's mental health approach for their athletes is something that's very exciting. So all these programs are in the mix. And when you talk to sources around each program, they feel like they have some confidence in there. And outside of Texas, sources will say, hey, this is a young man that wants to get away, wants to spread his wings a little bit. So that doesn't mean he won't go to Texas. I'm just saying, this is a hard one to call right now because these schools have done a really good job of making it attractive options for Daren Moore.
All right. So as we take a look at the top 10 wide receivers in America, we see that 4 are committed. So meaning 6 still remain uncommitted. In the top 5, the first 4, you got Daren Moore, Caleb Cunningham, Kaliq Lockett, and Jamie French, all uncommitted. Now, we know Caleb Cunningham, coming out of that Alabama visit, both you and Chad Simmons like where he's trending towards the Tide. You both put your picks in there. Let's move on to Kaliq Lockett, though. Some big news came out yesterday with him. He's going to make his final decision on August 7th. So Kaliq Lockett also goes into decision-making mode. Alabama, FSU, LSU, Texas A&M are the finalists. But is this really an in-state battle? What's going on here with Kaliq Lockett?
Well, I still have my On3 RPM on Texas. I think it was another great visit to Austin. The school that would make me nervous about that prediction is Alabama. I think Alabama really moved up the list with their official visit, a midweek trip right before Texas. I think that was an eye-opener for him to get around Coach Shepard, get around Coach DeBoer and that coaching staff. They like the vibe. They like the past history. They like what Alabama's doing to build it up. So those are the 2 programs that I have the keenest eye on right now for Kaliq Lockett going into his August 7th decision.
All right, so as these wide receivers come off the board, we get to Jamie French. So all these guys have decision dates set. Jamie French does not. What do you think French will do after Moore and Lockett are off the board? Do you think he wants to announce before the season starts or take it into the season? He's kind of mentioned both so far.
He has his decision date set for August 30th. I think that right now you give the edge to Texas coming out of his return visit official this past weekend to Austin. But LSU and Miami are 2 other programs that are right there in the thick of it for Jamie French. And he's expected to make some more rounds at the end of July when recruits are allowed on the road for 1 week. And Josh, how about those new rules? That's going to be a dead period next year all the way through July. That's something that we're celebrating just as much at the Wiltfong House as they're celebrating in college recruiting offices. So the pool parties, the Big Cat weekends, the barbecues at the big house, all those things will have to be moved to the spring. But that window in July, Jamie French is going to get on the road one more time, see his finalists again. Yeah. I give the edge to Texas right now. They got to hold off LSU and Miami one more time before he announces on the 30th.
All right, moving through the top 10 at number 5, we got Dallas Wilson. He is committed to Oregon. And then at number 6, we got Vernell Brown III. Now, he is trending to UF on the RPM. But do we know when he's going to announce yet, or do we have a time frame?
Yeah, I talked to his dad yesterday. They're going into decision mode this weekend, working through those things, getting an announcement date in order and all of that. We like Florida. This is a Florida legacy, 2-time Florida legacy that believes in Coach Billy Napier and what they're trying to do over there, believes in the way that they've recruited quarterbacks and the way they've changed that culture around that program. And he's just always loved Florida. So spent some time with him at the Elite 11 finals when he was out there catching passes. I've talked to the family, and it's looking good for Florida right now. Miami, Florida State, Ohio State rounding out the list of finalists. But Florida Gators, they just land Joshua Moore. Like them for Vernell Brown. It could be a really exciting receiver class, a couple dynamic guys for Florida if they land Vernell Brown III, which I think they ultimately will.
Yeah, kind of just reading the tea leaves there. He took an official visit to FSU last weekend, but all the expert picks start rolling in for Florida as the weekend ends. Just doesn't bode well for the Seminoles up north. Let's move on to number 7 ranked wide receiver in America, Derek Meadows. He announced that he's set to decide September 1. Now, the big-bodied wideout out of Las Vegas has been trending in a couple different directions, I guess, depending on where the visits have gone. But where do you see things standing with Meadows as we're about 2 months from his decision?
Well, he took his official visits to Michigan, Alabama, LSU, Notre Dame, and Georgia. And coming out of those trips, I feel the same way I did coming in. I think Notre Dame and Alabama are the two I'm watching the closest. And he's having final discussions with these programs as he tries to make his college decision. Mm-hmm. Now, he has a in-mind date of September 1st, but I think he's going to come off the board much earlier. He's been able to see his finalists. He's, again, having final meetings with some of these schools as he dots I's and cross T's. And I think you look at Notre Dame, what they love about the Irish. First, the new hire of Mike Denbrock and his track record of getting the balls to wide receivers. And they think that they're going to see that ratcheted up at Notre Dame, which has been traditionally a place where tight ends and running backs have feasted. Mike Denbrock has a track record with receivers being big play guys in that offense. So that's exciting. And then just how globally known Notre Dame is academically and what that could do for you career-wise. Those are some special things that they see with Notre Dame. But Alabama, just hey, I'm an Alabama football player. The magnitude of that is something that's exciting. The energy that they've seen and the connection that they've built with Jamarcus Shepard. This is a coaching staff that he got to know when they were at Washington. Now they're at Alabama. It's been a seamless transition with that relationship. And just what Alabama football, the magnitude of that, that is something that's very exciting for Derek Meadows and his family. And so those are the reasons why I think those are the top 2 schools. And we'll see what happens. I think it's a pretty close race, and it's going to be small details that decide whether he ends up in South Bend or Tuscaloosa.
All right. The number 8 and 9 wide receivers both came off the board in the last 2 weeks. Quincy Porter to Ohio State, Talon Taylor to Georgia. And that brings us to the number 10 ranked wide receiver in America, Andrew Marsh, who now is trending to Michigan over Texas.
Yeah, and Oklahoma was the school that I thought it had the control for Andrew Marsh for a lot of his process. Also took an official visit to USC, but he's been to Michigan 5 or 6 times, Josh. Mm-hmm. Him and Ron Bellamy have a great relationship. He fits in at Michigan with their culture and their locker room and loves Sharon Moore. And then he's expected back for their barbecue at the Big House in July. So like the way that's setting up, August decision for Michigan, or excuse me, for Marsh. And I, as it stands right now, I think it'll go in Michigan's favor.
All right, let's take a look at some of these big recruiting prediction machine picks from Steve Wiltfong. Some expert picks going down as we hit commitment season. We'll start with the number 2 running back in America. It's a special pick. It's a flip pick. You got A.K. Deere flipping from Ole Miss to Alabama. Explain yourself, Steve.
Well, coming out of his official visit to Alabama and then talking to some sources with knowledge of the recruitment, Alabama is the program trending. They have a great chance to land the top 2 players in the state of Mississippi with Caleb Cunningham, the 5-star receiver, and now A.K. Deere trending to Alabama, in my opinion. And when he was in Tuscaloosa, he told me it was dope. The people there are amazing. The new staff from Washington is fire. He enjoyed himself over there that weekend. They showed him how much they want him. Coach Gillespie has come by his school several times, so they have a good connection. He said they're always a top-tier school and powerhouse. I think that's the stage he's looking to play on. He committed to Ole Miss. I think it was because he was starting to get tired of the process. This is one of the guys who emerged first in the class of 2025, and he likes Ole Miss, but Alabama is the program that I think has his heart right now, and ultimately I think they'll have his commitment.
All right, that visit sounds lit. Now you got wide receiver Dylan Alfred. You predict him to Clemson. But my question here is Dylan Alfred this week decommitted from Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss suffered 3 decommitments and is on the verge of a 4th with A.K. Deere, who's really the crown jewel of their class right now, potentially flipping to Alabama. What's happening this week to Ole Miss recruiting?
Purely just poor time coincidence with some of these things. Clemson offers Dylan Alfred, but they don't give you an offer until you decommit. Dabo Swinney is old school, so he decommits, gets the Clemson offer. That tells me that the Tigers are in great shape. No shame in losing A.K. Deere to Alabama. I mean, you look at what Ole Miss has done under Lane Kiffin and company. I think they've recruited at a high level. They've revamped that defensive line room. They got a lot of good young talent and certainly hit as big as anybody at that position in the transfer portal last cycle. They're a team that's a dark horse to win the SEC. They should be in the college football playoff this year as it expands to 12 teams. And we know they're going to rally with some guys. And certainly they're losing some guys right now to early spatula season, but Ole Miss will be one of those teams to watch later in the cycle when the spatulas really start swinging heavy and they have the kind of year that they're anticipating and projected to have.
Yep, you live by the flip, you die by the flip. So we know Ole Miss will come around on some of these. Let's move out to California. We're running back Jordan Davison, where you now have trending to Oregon.
Well, he'll announce his commitment on Friday. Look, he almost committed to Michigan on Monday, I'm told. So this is one that's been back and forth. Ohio State looked like the program to beat in the spring. Michigan has definitely had some momentum at different points. And coming into the week, I would have told you Michigan, but talking to some sources about it, I'm leaning Oregon. But this is like my lowest percentage on 3 RPM prediction I've made by far. And so this is one that still could have some excitement. Oregon pushing for a top 5 class right now. They're kind of hot on the trail in the middle of it for so many of the country's elite prospects. And I just give them the edge right now based on the intel I have. But if he picked Michigan on Friday, I would not be surprised. Michigan could be in the top 10 of the On3 recruiting rankings very soon, Josh. And Oregon's already in there looking to get in the top 5.
All right. Speaking edge, let's talk about edge Bryce Davis. You predict him to Georgia. He's from Greensboro, North Carolina, and really one of the best looking edge prospects in America. What's been going on with Bryce Davis's recruitment? Why do you think Georgia?
Well, I don't know if I think Georgia. That's my on 3 RPM right now, going back to April. But I think Clemson's making this one very interesting down the stretch. So, and Duke's in the middle of it as well, too. But I was told last night it's either Georgia or Clemson. And, Georgia's already got Darren Akinabong in the fold and Isaiah Gibson. And Isaiah Gibson is a mutant, right? He's 6'3", 250, 60 pounds with a 7-foot long wingspan. Who knows what he's going to blossom into physically? But these are the 3 edge guys that Georgia has identified as their major targets at the position. Bryce Davis is a guy that they absolutely covet as an edge player. But Clemson got that first official visit the first weekend of May. And I remember talking to his family. His dad, who's a police officer, he's like, I'm normally skeptical on the genuineness of people and coaching staffs, and is it real or not, and is it authentic? And they left Clemson in that official visit knowing that Dabo Swinney and his staff, the way that they treat their players is just so authentic, and they're very comfortable with Clemson as a family. And then certainly what Clemson has done with front 7 players is second to none alongside places like Georgia in college football. So they know he would have a chance to develop and maximize his potential at Clemson as well. So those are the 2 schools I'm looking at. Manny Diaz and Duke, they've done a good job recruiting big academic kids. So family likes Duke a lot for that reason as well. But I'm looking at Georgia and I'm looking at Clemson. The picks on Georgia, we'll see if that holds.
All right, let's wrap up our prediction segment by talking a little 2026 quarterback dominoes. We've seen so many of these guys coming off the board in the last 2 weeks, but I want to talk about QB Daren Coleman. He's from Lakeland, Florida, and a lot of the experts a couple months ago had him trending to Oklahoma, but now you put in a pick to Miami?
Yeah, Oklahoma lands their quarterback, Jaden O'Neal, this cycle. Daren Coleman is an exciting player that has really good film that college coaches are high on. His just physical stature is not the same as some of his peers, but this is a guy that can really sling the rock, is really a playmaker, and he's a winner on the prep level, and he's a very confident young man and player as well. Coach Shannon Dawson in Miami have been able to make a fast impression on him. He's thrown in camp, so Miami has gotten a chance to see him. They have state champion Luke Nickel committed in 2025. Daren Coleman and his prolific what am I trying to say, Josh? He is a winner on the prep level. That's what Miami's looking for at the position. I think they lead for Daren Coleman. Would not be surprised to see him in the fold before the 4th of July for them as they start building a strong class in 2026.
Wow. So that could happen soon. Now, we can't talk QB dominoes in 2026 if we don't talk Faizon Brandon, On3's number 1 QB at the position for the class. Coming off all these visits, where do you think his head's at as we hit this dead period?
Well, I have the On3 RPM in favor of Tennessee right now. He is expected to make a college decision in August. Chad Simmons will have more on that on the On3 platform. Schools I'm looking at the closest, you have Alabama, you have Tennessee, where my prediction is, and then you have dark horse LSU. Tennessee's had him on campus many times. He's thrown in camp. He's gotten to really know Coach Halsey. Coach Heupel likes the offense. And again, Tennessee was really one of the first programs to prioritize him and give him that national recruit level feel. Alabama, he was there recently on campus and he got around the players on the team. And I think he really enjoyed that atmosphere and felt like those were guys that he could really fit in with. Coach Sheridan, they're starting to click, him and Alabama offensive coordinator Nick Sheridan. And then Kalen DeBoer, man's only lost 12 games as a head coach. They just developed Michael Penix into a top 10 pick. So there's a lot of reasons why Alabama is coming on strong, but I think a lot of it has to do with the time he spent around the players and got a sense for that atmosphere and vibe and how quickly they've responded to that new coaching staff. LSU's a dark horse. Joe Sloan goes as hard as anybody on the trail. Their offensive coordinator, he's never going to be outworked. No one's ever going to have a better relationship with a kid than him. So they're swinging. I expect him to visit all 3 of those programs the last week of July, and then he'll make his college decision in August.
All right. Thanks, Steve. June official visits are in the books, and on Sunday we hit the dead period, which meant top recruits are sitting down with their families, and a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are going to be making decisions. We're going to preview a couple of those. Let's bring in Steve Wiltfong for this. Steve, let's start with a big one, and we're going to go chronologically. These are all commitments that will be going on between Friday and Monday. We'll start with 5-star cornerback Dijon Lee out of California. Where do you see him falling?
Like Alabama there, as Alabama pursues On3's number 1 ranked recruiting class, sitting at number 4 in those standings right now. I think the Crimson Tide are clearly the one to beat from the relationship with Courtney Morgan and knowing that staff for so long when they were at Washington, getting to know Coach Mo Linguist, talking to guys like Domani Jackson on the roster and Zabian about how quickly they feel like they've developed under Coach Linguist, his time spent around other players. Been to campus many times. Alabama's the one to beat. Georgia's fighting to the end, but it's a major uphill battle. I think he's going to end up at Alabama. Alabama also trying to land 4-star defensive lineman Josiah Sharma, Josh. He's announcing his college commitment this week as well. Texas is another program in the mix, Oregon, but looks like it's coming down to Alabama and Texas, and there's reasons to like Alabama in this one. Texas, obviously, a program that we've seen close strong as well. So it'll be interesting to see where Josiah Sharma ends up. But Alabama's poured a lot of time into that recruitment as well.
All right, another decision going down on Friday is on 300 defensive lineman Trojan Odom, and it looks like Ohio State or Oregon for him.
Yeah, Ohio State set the bar coming out of his unofficial visits. Then they crushed it with the official visit. He almost didn't take his trip to Oregon 2 weeks ago, then stayed with the process and visited USC this past weekend. But Ohio State is the one to beat there still. Chad Simmons has his On3 RPM on Trojan Odom to Ohio State. I do as well.
All right, now let's move to Utah, where interior offensive lineman Darius Aflava, a massive offensive lineman, is going to make his decision on Friday. Do you think it'll be Oklahoma or Utah?
I get the sense that it's going to be Oklahoma right now, but you never count out the Utes for an in-state recruit. But Bill Bedenbaugh and that coaching staff have poured a lot into that one, and he told me he's loving it about Oklahoma. I think the momentum is with the Sooners right now.
All right, let's turn the page to Saturday, where top 100 tight end Dasan Brahm is going to make his commitment. It seems like a 3-team race here between Oregon, Oklahoma, Tennessee.
Yeah, there's been some recent buzz that Tennessee has grabbed the momentum there, but Oregon's been considered the longtime favorite. They got him back on campus for his official visit this past weekend, so it'll be interesting to see how that one lands. I think there'd be some surprise around Eugene if they ultimately lost him, but Tennessee has gained some momentum in this one, so we'll see what happens. It's a tight one.
All right, and then on Sunday, we got top 100 linebacker Noah McHale out of the state of California, and he's going to be picking between Oregon, USC, or Texas A&M.
Yeah, I think Oregon and Texas A&M are the ones I'm looking at the closest. If you're asking me who I would hedge on right now, maybe I'd say the Ducks. Again, Oregon looking for another top 5 recruiting class. He's always had fantastic experiences in Eugene. USC's another program that he took an official visit to and certainly has a keen eye on. But I know those visits to Oregon and Texas A&M were real exciting. But the Aggies getting the last chance to make an impression.
All right, then we turn the page to Monday. We're going to preview two. Now, Monday could get crazy. I have a feeling that July 1st could be very crazy. Right now, though, we're going to take a look at 2 commitments. Top 150 linebacker from the state of Washington, Zadrius Rainey-Sale, is picking between Washington or FSU.
Well, those are 2 programs that have always been well positioned for him. Florida State, they're kind of in a sneaky position here right now with a lot of guys. They're a program that could get hot in a hurry. We saw them pull the shocker to land C.J. Wiley over Georgia and LSU. Rainey-Sale is someone that at one point was a heavy lean to Florida State in this process. They got him back. He loves the atmosphere around there.
All right, and then let's move to the state of Texas, where we have an in-state battle for 4-star edge. Smith Aragbo. Is it going to be Texas Tech, or will it be Texas?
Well, my On3 RPM is on Texas Tech, I think, coming out of his official visit to Lubbock. He gave the Red Raiders a lot to be excited about, but I'm hearing he did the same for his official visit to Texas here recently. So it would not surprise me if he ended up in the burnt orange as well. That's one that I'm going to be making some fast phone calls on as soon as we get done recording.
All right, guys, a lot of news coming in the next couple of days. Let us know. Comment section below. Where do you think some of these top prospects are going to land? Let us know.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Wiltfong Whip Around. We will be back on this channel on Monday, so hit like and subscribe, but it's not going to be for the Wiltfong Whip Around. We are going to be having a big recruiting show as we get into the month of July 1st, a lot of recruitments, a lot of commits coming on that day. We'll be talking about those commits on a show. It'll be Chad Simmons, Josh Newberg, myself, some other special guests. So you want to be hitting like and subscribe to get the information and know when that show will be coming your way on Monday. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.